Hi everyone, we're here today as Puma's four-way skydiving team to talk a bit about our journey from rookie to the World Cup and how you guys can all do the same as well. So, the team today, we've got me, Matt Cumming, we've got Jodie Lee Foster, Derek Cornelius, who's joining us this year, Paul Wilcock, and Paul Remington, who's our cameraman who took this photo. We're going to talk a bit about basics of four-way, a bit about our own progression as a team, and we'll go into a bit of technical detail about what four-way is, what the blocks and randoms are, and why AAA is more technically difficult. We'll do a full overview of camera flying and how you can fly camera for a four-way team, and then Jodie Lee at the end will give you some tips on how you can put your own teams together, followed by some questions and answers. So, as an overview, what is four-way? Four-way skydiving involves jumping out of the plane with your team of 4 skydivers and a cameraman who is part of the team and jumps out and films you from above. After you've landed, the cameraman submits their footage to the judges, who will award you points based on how many formations you completed in the first 35 seconds from leaving the aircraft. Those formations are different for each round of the competition, and the winner is whoever gets the most points across all of the rounds put together. There's different categories of competition, so you've got Sky and Tunnel, but within that you've got a rookie category for beginners, and then single A, double A and triple A, which is the top category and includes the entire dive pool, which is used right up to world level. The other categories just have subsets of the dive pool to make it a little bit easier. When Pumas first started out in rookie, we weren't very good. So you can see from our scores from our first competition, we only managed to get 1 point in the entire competition in the last round. But we had loads of fun and we stayed together as a team for that whole season. And as you can see, by the end of that season, we'd managed to get that up to a 6-point average. That took maybe about 30 jumps together, but we also did quite a lot of just fun jumping with other friends, big way FS throughout that year, which really helped with our progression. You'll see from the picture, it was a bit of a different lineup back then. So Remington and I had already joined the team, but the others have all over time left the team or moved on. So while Pumas were doing this, Paul Wilcock, also known as Flanders, had his own four-way history where he did a couple of seasons in rookie and a couple of seasons of single A. But at the end of that 2016 year, we joined together half of Paul's team Blue Steel with the Pumas so that Sam and I could have a go at competing in single A. So with that lineup, we did about 10 training jumps and a few hours in the tunnel, and we were able to put that together and fly in single A and get a gold medal at the European Skydiving League competition, which was loads of fun. It's a bit more like a relaxed UKSL, but with teams from all around Europe. And we got an 11 average at that at the end of the year where we'd started off in rookie, so that was really good. Unfortunately, after that year, James, who was probably our best flyer at the time, left the team, but we replaced him with Paul Coleman and came up with this lineup for our first proper year of training to compete in double A. So that year we did a full 100 training jumps, mostly at Langer. We did about 10 hours of tunnel, plus some 2-on-2 flying in the tunnel, which is where we had 2 Pumas and 2 coaches flying in the tunnel together to really focus on fixing our technique. We won a lot of silver medals that year, not great, but mainly because Derek was in a team called Vantage, which won a lot of gold medals that year in double A. We're able to get about a 12 average after all of this training. And you might notice that we've only added 1 point to our average after all that training, but that really reflects the difficulty. As you step up through the categories, they do get a lot harder. Well, that Coleman guy is sexy from #1 Puma fan has just appeared in the chat, and I think I've worked out who the #1 Puma fan is. So after a double A year, unfortunately, Sam left the team, but we were lucky enough that Potter, who had previously run over his own foot with a forklift truck, had been without a team for a year and was looking to join a AAA team again. So we were able to bring some of Potter's experience into the team and compete in AAA. So we did 80 training jumps in 2018, another 15 hours of tunnel and some 2-on-2, and we were really pleased. We were aiming to kind of retain our average from AA and AAA with all that training, so to add a couple of points was great. And we managed to come 6th in nationals, which we were really pleased with. So while the Pumas were doing all of this, Jodie Lee, she got her FS1 in 2017 and had a rookie season that year. She competed in single A with Cloudbusters in 2018, but through that time she'd done a lot of tunnel flying, various 4-way, 6-way, 8-way in the tunnel, lots of big way jumps, and had really progressed. So when Coleman stepped down from Pumas at the end of 2018. We invited Jodie Lee to join us and skip double A and go straight in at triple A. So with the new lineup, we had considered just doing a tunnel team that year. The theory being that Jodie Lee had a lot to learn, learning all of double A, all of triple A, and the rest of the Pumas thought, well, we'll all change slots, so we've all got something to be learning too. So we were going to do 15 hours of tunnel, but we then got an invite to the World Cup and thought we should probably do some jumps as well, because that's an outdoor competition and a great opportunity. So with everyone in their new slots and with Jodie Lee jumping up a couple of categories, we were really pleased that we actually managed to add a couple of points onto our average, 0.1 onto our average from our previous season, which was what we thought was a great achievement. While the Pumas were doing this, Derek had his own sort of progression, which was very different. So he skipped rookie, did single A, double A, triple A. He's been focusing mainly on big way and is now going to join the Pumas this year. And I guess the point of showing you all these different progressions is that there's not one standard path to make your way to triple A or to a World Cup. Just flying with lots of different people, doing whatever teams you can is a great way to progress. Ideally, if you can keep a team together, the continuity helps with progression, but it's not essential and you can still work your way up and end up qualifying for World Cups. So I specifically want to talk about how you can qualify for a World Cup. There's two different types of world level competition. There are both World Cups and World Meets. A World Meet is the World Championships, and each country can only send one team to go to World Championships, so you have to win nationals if you want to go to a World Championships. Go back to my last slide, Flanders. Thank you. So you'd have to be the best in your country. The World Cup, however, you can send 4 teams for each country, which really opens up the opportunities to a lot more different people. You might remember that I said we came 6th at nationals. We got a little bit of luck in that NFTO were ahead of us, and they were an all-girls team, so they competed in female. And one of the teams that beat us in Open decided that was their last year of competing together and dropped out. So even though we only came 6th, we got the opportunity to go to the World Cup, represent Britain, and compete against all the other best teams in the world. Which is a fantastic opportunity, and the point I'm trying to make is you don't have to be the very best professional skydiver, spending an absolute fortune trying to win nationals to get a chance to go to a World Cup. It's a very realistic goal, and if you put together a team and work at it for a few years, you could find yourself competing at a World Cup representing Britain. So I've talked a bit about our progression and how you can do the same. Paul's now going to tell you a little bit more about the actual technicalities of four-way.
Right, thank you, Matt. So, for the benefit of anyone who's new to competition, you might be wondering, so what is a four-way team and what do we actually do? So in essence, it's all about building shapes, 38 of them to be precise, but you don't learn them all at once. So when you first start out in the rookie category, you can see here on the right, there's 16 basic shapes here, which are called randoms, and you each take a different slot within those, which is denoted by colour. So there's point in red, outside centre, or OC in green, inside centre, or IC in blue, and tail, which is yellow. And in the photo here in the middle, you can see we're building an E, which is the first shape on the second row. So JLo's there flying point, Matt is flying OC, our ex-teammate Potter's flying IC, and I'm flying tail. So when we're in an actual competition, we take a random selection of these shapes and you have to build each one in a sequence. So after exiting the plane, you have 35 seconds to build as many shapes as you can. And so you have your sequence of dives. So for example, if the competition draw was EFG, we would start out by building the shape there in the photo, and then we have to have a complete break. So that's everybody letting go of all of the grips. And then we build the next shape, which you can see in the diagram there. So F, the second one in the second row, is the open accordion. So we all take hands there. And then G, we build a slightly more awkward shape there, G. And then it goes back to the start. So we rebuild what we had in the photo there, and we keep going until we run out of time. So when you're sort of looking to start out and learn, so it can seem a bit daunting at first, the sheer amount of shapes you have to build, but what you'll remember is you only learn some of the shapes, and you also only learn one slot, so it's only a quarter of all of those shapes you actually even have to memorize. So the best thing to focus on is, just like when you're learning FS1, is just good flying techniques. So you're flying with your team, and the best things to focus on are firstly being sort of stable on level with the team. So a really good way to achieve this is, as you can see by Matt there on the far left of the photo, and JLo there on the right in the purple helmet, that they're looking right across at each other. So when you're looking at your opposite, You have good visibility of everything in the formation. You can see where everyone is, so you know you're not in too close, or you're not like got your arm right up against your face because your grip's way too close to you, or it's really far away and you're reaching out, so you are sort of stretching out and you're backsliding. And also that you're on level with the rest of the team, so you're not reaching up or down to the grips, which will cause you to go over or under each other and just tumble up in a massive ball. So the next most important thing I'd say is rhythm. So the way the shapes are engineered is a lot of the time the person in the IC slot is in-facing and has good visibility of everything that's going on. So they can generally see all of the grips and they'll know when a shape is built. So they'll know when it's time to move on to the next shape. So it's sort of, you've got to establish a rhythm so you know everybody knows when it's built and you're all trying to move on to the next point at the same time, and you let IC sort of lead that. So you all are trying to work to the same goal at the same time. And finally, think of the grips as like your sort of rock bottom priority. So yeah, think of good technique, making sure you're in the right place at the right time is the most important thing, and not worry too much about the actual shapes you have to build. Yeah, it's all about good flying. So I spent all this time talking about discipline. I thought I'd show a few examples of what happens when you don't quite adhere to that. So when you're in an actual competition, you say you exit the aircraft, the cameraman follows you out immediately, they'll film the entire jump and they'll present that to the judges, and they're only able to judge you on based on what they can actually see in the video. So for example, here where things haven't been built quite right, it doesn't quite work in their favour. So for example, on the left, I've got to try to build a donut, which should be very simple. Everyone grabs the left leg in front of them with their left hand, and it should be a very nice, neat box, all right angles, but it's got a bit scrunched up there in that photo, which is we all need to think about moving a bit forwards and just neaten that out so the grips are clearly visible. Then in the middle is a bit more of an interesting shape, so a K. So from here, you can see the Potter there in the bottom left hasn't quite got the grip in his left hand. So it'd be easier to sort of assign all of the blame to him, think, oh, he's just messed up and not managed to get his grip. But actually, this is a case of all of us need to work to be in a better position. So for example, if Point there at the front came forward and round to the left, what that would do is, or drive around the corner, would then rotate OC so their hips come into the center, which then would make Tail have a much easier job of grabbing that grip. So yeah, building shapes, it's a team, it's always a team effort. You all have to work to build everything. So if everyone's in the right place and all the grips will be right in front of your face, then it's super easy. And then the final shape, it seems like what we've built doesn't match the diagram at all. It's because there in the bottom left, I've completely forgotten what I'm supposed to be doing and then built the wrong point. So that's another aspect. That's about memory and making sure you've got the dive you need to be doing in your head. And Jayla will be going over a few techniques for helping you remember what you need to be doing. But yeah, with that, so that's sort of me covered all the basics. So now I'm going to hand over to Derek, and he's going to explain some of the more advanced techniques of four-way flying, which will cover things like the blocks, which are much more sort of advanced and complex techniques, because the randoms, you're just building a shape, but blocks, you're actually splitting into groups and you're flying each other around. So that's a lot of fun, getting to sort of grab people and throw them around the tunnel or the sky. So with that, yeah, I'll hand over to Derek.
Thank you very much, Paul. So you've made it to AAA. Now what's happening in AAA? And what's happening with my screen? I don't know. Here we go. So what's new compared to the other categories? Well, you've got new blocks. When you moved from single A to double A, you had 8 new blocks. But when you moved to AAA, there's only 6 this time. Strange. Should be harder, right? Well, you've also got more experienced teams. In single A, when you move up to that, people tend to stay there for a year, maybe 2. When you start winning medals, really what you do is you move up to double A. Likewise, when you start getting good and winning medals in double A, after a year, maybe 2, you'll move up to AAA. So the more experienced teams in AAA, because there's nowhere to go from there. They just stay there for a while, for a long time. Also, exits become increasingly important, and we'll talk about that in a little moment. So AAA blocks, what are they? Well, the blocks are 3, 5, 10, 12, 16, and 17. Well, why is there only 6 this time? Surely it can't be that easy, and it's not. The reason is they're all what we call slot switches. So And what that means is where you start the block as point, you will slot switch and you will end the block in a position that makes you OC. Likewise, you start in OC, you will end as point, and at the back, you start as IC, you end as tail, you start as tail, you end as IC. In fact, point and OC switch slots in all of the AAA blocks, whereas IC and tail will switch in just 2 of them, namely the 5 and the 17. But that means that you need to learn those 6 blocks in your A slot and also those same 6 blocks in your B slot. So that's 12, right? Well, not really, because now that you're in your B slot, everything else you do, you may have to do in your B slot. So you also need to know the 16 randoms in your B slot and the other 16 blocks in your B slot too. So that gives you total new formations in AAA to learn of 44. And an overall number of formations that you need to memorize for this is 76. And if that isn't tough enough, AA, the standard round is 4 points. When you go up to AAA, it becomes 5 points. And if the last drawn is a block, that's 6 points. And to complicate things further, if it's a slot switcher is drawn as well, you've got up to a 12-point dive to remember. It's a lot to remember. So hopefully this video is going to work and you'll see an example of a AAA slot switch 12-point dive.
Here we have Arizona Airspeed, one of our favorite teams, doing a 6-point AAA dive, which is 10-7-9, which has a slot switcher in it, effectively making it a 12-point dive. Now we're going to watch this at a quarter speed, and I want you to particularly pay attention to the guy in the blue helmet. I'll talk you through what he's doing, so you have an idea of how much this guy has to remember for a single dive. So here we have the launch on the 10. The first point is flying point. Turns out, slot switches and becomes OC, closes the 10 as OC for the second point. The third point, at the beginning of the 7, he spins right, closes as OC for the fourth point. Fifth point on the 9, he's facing in, turns out to close for the 6th point. 7th point, we're back to the 10, but he's OC this time, and slot switches to become point for the 8th point. Closes as point. On the 7, this time, for the 9th point, he is spinning to his left. Closes for the 10th point. 11th point on the 9, he's facing out this time. Turns to close the 9 for the 12th point, and now we're back to the top.
So there you go. That's a 12-point dive. A lot to remember, I'm sure you'll agree. So, AAA challenges. What have we got? We've got those 76, including 44 new formations for you all to practice. We've got up to 12 points per dive to remember as well. Also, very experienced flyers and teams. Remember, AAA is the top. Those people that move up into AAA, they're going to be there for a long time. They could have been there flying in the same team for 3 or 4 years, so the competition is going to be much harder. Also, because they've been there for a while, the top teams can be very similarly matched speed-wise, because let's face it, the body can only fly so fast. So, competitions are often won or lost, what we call on the hill, which means you need to be scoring points straight out of the door. So if it's a B, you launch a B. If it's a 2, you launch a 2. 1, 2, or 3 solid exits may have got you through the lower categories. You may have even won your category with 1 or 2 solid exits, but that is no longer enough. The experienced teams can launch all of the randoms and all of the blocks. So they are making a point as soon as they leave the plane, and they are making points on the hill whilst the lesser experienced teams are still trying to get stable. On top of this, some of the best teams, if the first or second point is a slot switcher, they might even exit in a B slot. So the hardest flying, the flying on the hill, once they've done that slot switch, they're back into their familiar A slot. So they get more points on that hill, get their rhythm going before they switch into their B. Then, when you're getting really good, you're looking at engineering dives and swinging out of the slot switches, so you don't have so much memory. Now, that's a topic for another time. So that's your AAA, a little insight into that. And now Paul is going to talk to you about camera.
Thanks very much, Derek. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm just going to do a little bit about me first for anybody who don't know me. My name's Paul Remington. I started jumping way back in 1999 at Langer. I started on static line, and after doing 29 DRPs, DH pulled me to one side. I was going to actually tell me to take up golf or darts or something. But he turned around and he said he wanted to take me through AFF. So my first couple of levels of AFF were with DH and Milko. And then I switched to DH and Richard, and the remainder of my AFF, I did it with Richard. And 1,384 jumps later, I'm still going. And if it weren't for Langer, DH and Richard, I won't be jumping anymore. I joined the Pumas back in 2016. And apparently I've never been part of the team right up until we had to do this presentation. And now all of a sudden, I'm now part of the team. Well, hey-ho. So I'm predominantly a camera flyer. I do a lot of four-way camera, and I also do big-way camera. I do a lot of big-way jumping for Brian Cumming, who's got a talk coming up later on today, so don't miss out on that. When I'm not flying camera, I'm usually flying around the skies of Langer in my wingsuit, but I'm not allowed to talk about wingsuit today because it's all about four-way. So, first things first. It's not just a GoPro. Anything that we strap to our helmets has the potential to make our day go very bad very quickly. Norman Kent did a video called Don't Be a Hero. There's a link to it down in the link section. It's just over 16 minutes long. It's a really good watch if you've not seen it before. If you have seen it before, it's really worth going back into that and then having another watch of it. He talks about the different kinds of helmets, the different mounts and snag hazards. It really is a good video to watch. So before you input a camera on your head, you need a minimum of 200 jumps. We say minimum because the more jumps you've got, makes you more prepared for any potential problems that you might have. You also need a C license. So if you've got 200 jumps and you've not got your C license yet, you still can't fly a camera. And if you jump at Skydive Langer, you also need a camera brief. If you're not a Langer jumper and you want to start jumping camera, have a word with your CI and they will show you or tell you what to do. But if you do jump at Langer, you do need to have a camera brief. Any guys in the camera pool can give you a camera brief. Just don't turn up on a Saturday morning at 8:30 when it's clear blue skies and nil wind, because you ain't going to get your camera brief done. Best thing to do is collar one of them through the day when you see one of them stood about with a brew, and just ask them later on, after we've finished jumping, is there any chance you can give me a camera brief? What you need to do then is turn up with everything as though you're going to jump out of the plane. You want your logbook and all your docs up to date, your rig, your helmet, your cameras, pretty much everything. And they will give you a full camera brief. So what do you need? So the basics you need to have to fly a camera is a camera suit or a camera jacket. The main difference is we have wings, if you don't know. That helps us to stay above the formation and it gives us a little bit of movement so we can speed up and slow down if we need to. If you have a chat with Hayley at Simbi Suits, she will tell you the difference between a camera suit and a camera jacket and find out the best one that will suit you. You're also going to need a camera helmet. Cookie Fuel do a really, really good camera helmet. You can buy one straight off when you start your skydiving career and have no cameras on it. And then as you progress, you can add plates to allow you to affix cameras. You can get a plate that fastens to the front, so it allows you to attach one GoPro. They do a single top plate, which allows you to attach one camera to the top. And then take it one step further, you can get a dual top plate that allows you to strap two cameras to the top. So in total, you can have 3 cameras on your helmet. That leads me into cameras. I am not going to go into cameras too much today because it's an absolute minefield. The 2 major cameras that people use these days are GoPros or Sonys. I personally like the GoPros. I've got 2 little Session 5s. Really good camera, really easy to operate. It's one click on, one click off. And you also need some kind of a ring sight. You can use a paper reinforcement ring if you're just starting out, or you can even draw a little circling black pen or something on your goggles, or you can get something like this, which is actually a ring sight, which attaches to your helmet. The purpose of a ring sight is you set the ring sight up to where your cameras are pointing. So wherever that moves to, that is what you're filming. Because as humans, we use our eyes quite a lot to look without moving our heads. So a ring sight is a really key piece of equipment for when you're filming something. What's the differences between flying for a rookie and flying for a AAA team? Well, generally, rookie teams are a lot slower. The teams are new. They're just coming into four-way, so the formations that they build in the sky are a lot slower to build. They'll take a grip, and once they've got that grip, they'll tend to look around before they break to turn for their next point. As soon as that last grip's taken, the whole team knows that that grip's on, and it's flashed, and they've broke, and they're on to their next point. The points are a lot easier in rookie. There's no blocks in there, so all the points are a lot easier. From a cameraman's point of view, or a camera person's point of view, you've got a lot more room for error when you're filming a rookie team. You can afford to be a lot further away from the team or shallower than you can in a AAA team. As soon as you start getting into AAA, Derek's already mentioned that the turning point's on the hill. So as soon as the team exits the plane, that can be a lot of time be the first point launched. So as soon as they get out, they've let go and they're turning on the hill and going straight to the second point. But that said, you've got exactly the same pressure, whether you're filming a rookie team, single A, double A, or AAA team. If you're in a competition, we've all got the same job to do. We've got to film it, we've got to make it judgeable, and we don't want to get any camera busts. So what would I say to anybody who wants to start to learn to fly camera? Don't run before you can walk. Start small. Get yourself a rookie team. Hopefully you'll get yourself a rookie team that wants to progress, what's got a plan, who wants to do more than one season. If it is your first season as a camera flyer, expect to pay your own slot. All the camera people all want to get the slots paid, but when you're flying four-way, before you'll get your slots paid, you basically got to prove that you can do the job. UKSLs are a really good introduction to competition skydiving. There's normally 3, but this year we've only got 2. We've got the first one's at Langer and the second one's at Simpson. So if it's your first time flying a competition and you're a Langer jumper, you can do it on your home drop zone, which is always better. And once you've done nationals, hopefully your team will, once you've done UKSLs, the next one's nationals. So hopefully your team will be going to nationals. Nationals is brilliant. There's a lot of top class camera flyers at nationals. With anything you need from exits to flying to cameras, anything, they'll help you out. And the party on the night time on the Saturday is absolutely well worth it just for a party. And if all goes well and your team's going to carry on next season, you can sit down and have a chat with them. And if you've not made any busts, you've got all the points on camera, it's all judgeable. You can sit down with your team, have a chat with them, and see how you're going to progress for the next season. But all in all, have fun and be safe. Competitions are good fun, but everybody messes up sometimes. You're going to bust some points. Enjoy it and have some fun. I'm going to hand you over to JLo now, who's going to talk you through how to put a team together.
So now we've covered a bit about four-way and how we've progressed as a team. We wanted to give you some tips on getting started if you wanted to form a team yourselves. Thank you. So experience. Look for people who have similar levels of formation skydiving experience to you. There are also a few things that you want to discuss with your team to ensure that you're all working towards a similar goal where you can decide on a level of commitment that you are all happy with. That includes things like how much you want to spend, how many hours of tunnel and the number of jumps you plan to do, whether you spread it out and or do training camps, what competitions you plan to compete in and what you're aiming to compete in. and the length of commitment. So obviously a lot of things could happen that mean you can no longer commit to a team, but you want to decide how long you're committing for if there aren't any changes to your circumstances. Whether it's a scratch team and that's just for a one-off competition, or for a season or a couple of years. So we wanted to give a quick overview of the things we've done to help us improve at the rate we have, which includes lots of tunnel. Whilst jumps are a lot more expensive than they used to be, we do have the tunnel now, so take advantage of that and get the hours in. It's a huge tool to help with your development. Of course, jumping. Whether it's jumping together as a team, jumping with friends in different slots, coaching, that can be whether you're getting FS coaching from someone or giving it, you can still learn a lot just by coaching people, and big wave formation skydiving. As Paul previously mentioned, Brian's doing a talk on that later, but I would recommend going to. So coaching. Once split 4 ways, coaching isn't as expensive as it first sounds. A bit like when you're splitting the tunnel 4 ways, cheaper than free flying anyway. You will really benefit from having a coach to brief and debrief the jumps with you. Pumas have our main coach, who is Sean Stokes, but we also use a few others like Milko, Nicholas from Airspeed, Kate Lindsley, Phil Curtis, who's saved us and laughs at us with many of our wonderful exits. Different coaches explain things differently and teach styles and techniques in a different way, so this gives the team an opportunity to take bits from what suits them from various coaches, and you can then make the style what suits you best. Camera and debrief. A jump often feels very different to how it looks on video. There's so many things going on at the same time, you can't really pick it all up without the help of your camera person. So having a camera person therefore makes a huge difference to improvement, but also it means you can work on exit key timing, the angle the exits are coming out on, meaning less bust and less chance of your camera person landing on you during the competition, hopefully. You also want to take a good look at the videos as a team with your coach, but also maybe go over them by yourself to look at ways you can improve. This is something that I like to do after every jump with camera and flying in the tunnel even still now. There are a few other useful tools you can use. So there's apps like FS Ninja, which can help you learn the shapes and how to transition between different points. You can speed it up and slow it down. It's a great tool for beginners. And I think they've got, is it AA now? They've definitely got single A. They've definitely got rookie and single A on there. Creepers are also good for looking at angles, practicing the transitions between points, and it's a much cheaper way to practice than doing it all in the sky. We've also got mock-ups that are great for practicing exits, and one of the best free tools is visualizing. So visualizing is going through the dive in your head and just practicing it over and over again. So you can do this from your point of view in the formation or from the camera's point of view. I'd recommend doing both. You can dedicate some time in the day to visualize. You might even want to do it while standing up and physically moving your limbs to practice taking the grips. Also, if you're a busy person who struggles to find the time, try visualizing in the bath or the shower, or during the time you spend on the toilet. So some tips if you haven't done much visualizing before. I'd say visualize in color. I find this really helps me. I start by visualizing the dives in slow motion and gradually speed it up, so that you can see every point, everyone's on and off the grips at the same time. And then also importantly, if something goes wrong whilst you're visualizing, try and avoid the temptation to stop and start again. Otherwise, when this happens in the sky, which it quite often does, you'll just freeze and struggle to carry on smoothly. And you're obviously very limited in time in the sky if you're planning on doing another jump after that one. So what next? So get started, make a plan, start training unless you're doing a scratch team, and sign up for some competitions. The UK skydiving leagues, or UKSLs, are great opportunities to visit new drop zones and are great fun 6-round competitions. For those who see Langer as their home drop zone, we've got the first UKSL being hosted there, so it means you don't even have to travel to try one out. I'd say don't forget to take time to get to know each other as a team, but since we all live in the UK, I'm sure you'll have plenty of time to do that whilst waiting for the skies to clear or the winds to drop. But make the most of these opportunities together and get some team bonding in. Enjoy the parties and have fun. So now we've given you a brief introduction to how Pumas have progressed and lots of information about four-way FS in general. This will hopefully be useful for you in your own progression within the discipline. Here is a quick view of some of the events we are planning at Langer this year. So if you're looking to work on your FS skills, check some of these out and have a look on Langer's Facebook page to see other events that are going on throughout the year where you can practice your skills and work towards your own World Cup slot. As someone mentioned just before the start of the call, I think it was John Welsh, or it might have been Tim. Sorry, Tim. We have planned the Coach the Coaches, which isn't just a Puma event, it's being run by all the coaches at Langer, and it was meant to be this month, last weekend, I think, but obviously because of COVID, we've had to postpone it for now. We will be putting a new date in for that soon. We just need to discuss what works best for everyone. So keep your eye out for that as well. So we have a bit of time left to run through some questions. If anyone has any, feel free to unmute yourself or drop any questions in the chat box. Hello, Terry the Tyrannosaurus.
Jayla, I've got a question for you.
Me? Oh, okay.
Well, for all of you. At the beginning, you talked about your changing lineup, and you've had lots of different people in the Pumas over the years. How do you guys go about choosing who you want, or is it just a case of looking at the teams that are around you and kind of poaching people like you did with Derek?
Derek wasn't in a team, was he?
That is a very good question, Laura. I think it's probably a mixture of everything, looking at all the people around us. I suppose I've noticed since coming into AAA, people have started to express their interest a bit more. So we've had a few people that we've spoken to the team and said they might be interested if a slot becomes available in the future of joining. And then just a case of flying with people, getting to know, making the decision as a team. Obviously involving the cameraman because he's part of the team now.
Yeah, it's different challenges depending what stage you're at. Once you're in AAA, you can't really poach people from the teams above you very easily because they tend to already be in a pretty firm team that's maybe doing a few hundred jumps a year. So when you're in AAA, it tends to be finding someone else that wants to join. Whereas back when we were in Single A, it was seeing if there was anyone that was better than us that might want to join and help us out, so that we could improve, and convincing them to do a team with a bunch of people that weren't very good. But generally just finding people that you get on with as well, because you're going to spend a lot of time with people that you're doing a team with. And if you don't get on well together, then it's not going to be very productive.
Also, from flyers' point of view, it's a good idea that if you get the opportunity to fly with any other teams, then do that, because even when I was flying with Vantage, I actually did do some sessions with the Pumas in the tunnel as a stand-in. And when I was flying with different teams, I was also flying in a different slot quite often. So that's a good way to progress your skills and get yourself ready for AAA if you're getting up to that level.
Yeah, so Jodie Lee was our packer for one of our training camps when we were, I think, doing a AAA. We did 50 jumps in a week at Langer, so we brought Jodie Lee along to help pack with us. And Paul Wilcock had a job interview during one of the days, so he had to take a couple hours off. So Jodie Lee did a jump with us, and we got loads of points. And that's when we all went, wait a minute, why is this Single A flyer we're getting more points with her than we normally do? Maybe there's something there.
Hang on, it was a harder dive, wasn't it?
Any excuse wanted.
But yeah, just fly with lots of people and make yourself known, and then it gives you the opportunity to be on the radar of people that are looking for teams. And we're always looking for people to fly with and people to train with as well. Cool. I've seen James, you asked in the chat, likely to be in person or on Zoom. I take it that's about Coach the Coaches. We're probably going to probably try and do it in person. We might send some material out in advance, but I think Coach the Coaches works best in person. So this is our event that's aimed at people that want to become a coach or people who are already coaches and just want to work on their coaching. The idea is we'll do some practical sessions as well, particularly with those looking to become a coach, where the existing coaches will pretend to be students and we can go and do some jumps. So I think that really works best in person. And don't be here. Yeah, lots of people, Paul, are asking for your picture of the snagged GoPro. and if you can share it. So we'll send these slides around. I don't know, Emily, if there's a plan for uploading all the material somewhere. I know we're going to post the videos on the YouTube channel, but we can send.
If anybody wants that picture, just let me. I know, Ali, I've seen that you want it. I will forward it on to you. It's one what does the rounds on Facebook every so often. I dragged it off there. The guy did survive. He broke a leg and a couple of bones, but yeah, you got fine.
Yeah, I think the plan is everything's been recorded, so we'll put the recordings with the slides and stuff, and we'll put them on the website, and they'll be in like various places.
Laura's just posted the link there. Thanks, Laura.
I'm just going to put the link for the next talk. So the next talk is Rich, so at CI, is going to talk a little bit about how to get back into the sport safely after lockdown. So there's a link there for anyone that wants that. Oh, and someone else has put some links in for UKSLs, so that's really good. Someone wants to know the dates of those 4-way competitions as well.
Cool. We thought Rich would like that GoPro picture as well.
Oh, he definitely will.
Has anyone else got any questions then?
I have a question. What kind of things have you been doing, like in lockdown, to keep your like 4-way brains occupied? Has it just been a lot of visualization?
No.
Not enough visualization. Definitely some.
A good emailer called dailyskydive.com that you can subscribe to, and it will send you a random dive of your choice for whatever category you're working on. And then you can just walk that one through. It just takes a few minutes every day.
I said last when I'm going fitness. Sorry,
Any tips for fitness?
Any tips for fitness? I'm probably not the best person to ask this to right now. Keep getting out. I think flexibility is quite a good one. I think a lot of people don't really take that into account as fitness. It's more cardio. But I found, especially with some of the exits when I'm in my B slot as OC, just having that extra bit of flexibility really helps getting your body where you need it in the airflow.
Yeah, and just general fitness as well. So depending on who's in your team, you can have fall rate issues. So when Sam Widdowson left our team, we replaced him with Potter. And Sam weighed 15 stone and Potter weighed 9 stone. And the fall rates were all over the place. So at that point, Coleman went on a diet and lost about 2 stone to get the 2 or 3 weight belts off Potter, which is helpful. So it can depend on who's in your team. If everybody's kind of roughly the same weight or same fall rate, that's really useful. So you can work on either getting heavier or getting lighter, whatever's going to be helpful. And you want to make sure you're fit enough that you can get through a full, say, hour of tunnel session or however much tunnel you want to do in an evening, and be able to get through a day of jumping. Because if you're starting to get tired, then you're not getting as much value out of the training. So it's just whatever you need to do yourself to be fit enough to get through it, and consideration of fall rates for the team.
I suppose mental fitness as well, especially if you're doing an hour or more, sometimes even in the tunnel, it can be quite difficult, especially as you get to AAA. There's a lot to think about and you're just starting to learn it, but visualizing will help a lot with that.
Dan Staples is asking, have we ever practiced exits by jumping out the front door? I'm not sure about the front door. We've definitely spent a lot of time in mock-ups. I seem to remember Anna Hicks posting videos of her jumping into a swimming pool to practice her outside centre exits, because you kind of have to start upright and throw your head down, which maybe isn't the best out of a front door, but a swimming pool is an option.
I think I've seen Chimera do that as well.
Yeah.
We don't have a pool, unfortunately. Future life goal.
I don't know if it was her pool.
Oh. Any more?
That's everything in the chat. Someone's saying there's some great apps for learning the randoms and blocks. Yeah, we've said about FS Ninja is really good. And there's some other apps. I wrote an article for the mag a while ago with a list of some of the apps. There's an app called 4-Way Coach is really good. It's Apple only. I think you have to pay for it. It's a few pounds, but it's probably the best app in terms of it gives you all the blocks all the way up to AAA, and it lets you mirror them, and it's got all the alternate randoms as well. So if you're up to AAA level and you're thinking about how to engineer a dive, you can use that to look at all the different possible options there. It's quite handy.